مساء الخير، يعطيكم العافية جميعاً. كيف حالكم اليوم؟ إن شاء الله تكونوا بأحسن حال يا رب. أتمنى أنكم اطلعتوا على الأسايمنت وبلشتوا تحلوا فيه. الأسايمنت بسيط جداً على نفس القواعد اللي شرحناها مع بعض. ما في شيء صعب، ما في شيء مش واضح، الأسئلة مباشرة، وبعتقد إنه يعني سهل على كل واحد إنه يحلها. فبتمنى من الجميع زي ما اتفقنا امبارح إنه كل واحد يحل الواجب لوحده. بالنسبة لطريقة التسليم من التعليمات حكيت لكم أنا بديها وورد دوكيومنت، يعني بتنزلوها عندكم، بتطبعوها على وورد دوكيومنت وبتبعتوا لي إياها من خلال التعليم الإلكتروني. يعني ما بدي حدا يحكي لي والله ما زبط معي بدي أبعت لك يا واتساب، ما زبط معي بدي أبعته ماسنجر، مش مقبول أبدا أبدا. التسليم فقط سيكون من خلال التعليم الإلكتروني. الواجبات المتأخرة لن تقبل أبداً مهما كانت الظروف. الامتحان ما بده هداك الوقت، أنا متأكدة لو أعطيتكم إياه بالصف بتحلوا بنص ساعة وبتطلعوا، ولكن يعني ظروف الوضع الحالي يعني لا يستوجب أو يستوجب علينا القيام بهاي الأمور. إذا عندكم أي استفسار يعني بشكل خاص أو بخصوص الامتحان مش واضح، تقدروا تتواصلوا معي من خلال الجروب أو من خلال الواتساب أو من خلال الماسنجر. لكن التسليم برجع بأكد ما حدا يحكي لي مش ضابط معي الملف أبعت لك إياه، ابعت لي بدي أبعته واتساب أو بدي أبعته ماسنجر، لا ما رح أقبل الفصل هذا، أنا ما رح أقبل. بالتالي بدي الجميع يسلموا على شكل وورد دوكيمنت ويتسلم في الوقت المناسب. إن شاء الله. أنا مش عارفة، مش متذكرة كان الاثنين القادم للديو ديت، المهم انتبهوا أنتوا للتوقيت وسلموا. يعني احتمال أنا بس ينتهي التوقيت أعمل بلوك لكل السبمشنز وبالتالي ما حدا يقدر يسلم أصلاً. إذا أنا بعمل بلوك للسبمشنز ما حدا بيقدر يسلم. طيب خلينا نحن نكمل موضوعنا اليوم. صار الآن يعني ماشي من المحاضرة 3، استنى كمان دقيقة لأنه في طلاب بيحاولوا يشبكوا الأيام هاي، ما بعرف يعني في مشكلة ضعف هي الإنترنت، مش عارف وين المشكلة بالضبط، لكن الأيام هاي أنا بعاني من موضوع الإنترنت، فيعني بتغلب شوي لما بستخدمه. فبدي استنى دقيقة واحدة فقط ونبدأ محاضرتنا. طبعا احنا امبارح بلشنا، خلينا بس نعمل شير سكرين عشان نشوفوا احنا وين وصلنا. كنا احنا مبلشين المرة اللي فاتت بالكلام عن او اوريدي احنا بلشنا وخلصنا الكلام عن الجيرند اليوم، وبلشنا بالحديث عن الانفينيتيفز. اليوم بدنا نتناول موضوع جديد واللي هو احنا اوريدي بلشنا فيه بس نرجع نراجعه من اول او ناخذ فكره عنه سريعه، اللي هو we are going to talk about common verbs followed by either infinitives or gerunds. In this case, we said that sometimes if you use the infinitive or the gerund, they keep the same meaning. There is no difference in meaning. If you use the gerund or the infinitive with the verb, there is no difference in meaning. But there is another case in which the gerund and the infinitive in the same sentence they give different meanings. بدنا اليوم نتناول الموضوع هذا، وبدنا نتناول موضوع آخر واللي هو رح يكون اللي هي it والinfinitives or gerunds، ويكون هذا آخر موضوع رح نتناوله لهاي الوحدة. بعد ما نخلص هاي الوحدة رح نبدأ بالموضوع اللي بعده إن شاء الله، واللي هو رح نبدأ أعتقد بالريبورتد سبيتش. أنا رفعت لكم المادة امبارح على التعليم الإلكتروني، وفي أمور صار في يعني أنتم كنتوا مستعجلين، أنا كنت عم بفعل بعض الآيكونز وكنتوا أنتوا دليل إنكم أنتوا طلاب مجتهدين وشاطرين وبتستنوا اللحظة اللي ينزل فيها الأسايمنت، فكنتوا متسرعين شوي في بعض الايكونز اللي كانت مستخدمه بالفصول السابقه. انا ما بتلزمني هذا الفصل، او يعني ما بتلزمنا لانه غيرنا شويه او بعض الامور تغيرت معنا بهذا الفصل، وبالتالي انه كل شيء بنزل لكم اياه. طبعا الموضوع الجديد اللي هو احنا تقريبا صرنا في نهايه الاسبوع الخامس، كونه اجت وقت العيد وكونه اجت الظروف يعني السابقة، يعني يمكن في تأخر بسيط شوي إحنا عنا، لكن إن شاء الله بنحاول نتفادى قدر الإمكان. وعلى جميع الأحوال نحن رح نضلنا ندرس لآخر يوم بالفصل، ورح نحاول نغطي أكبر قدر ممكن من المادة المطلوبة معنا. في حالة ما قدرنا نكمل، طبعاً الكتاب أصبح متوفر معكم وأنتم طلاب كبار. هذا الكتاب يعتبر مرجع لكم في حياتكم القادمة، سواء في الحياة المهنية أو في الدراسة. تقدروا ترجعوا للكتاب بأي لحظة ممكن تحتاجوها. طريقة عرض الكتاب بسيطة، مختصر مفيد. يعني طريقة عرض المادة هي مختصر مفيد، أي حدا بيقدر يفتح يقرأ فيه يفهم، وفي كمية تمارين كبيرة بتساعد على تعزيز فهمنا للمادة. طيب نبدأ بموضوعنا common verbs followed by either infinitives or gerunds, and we said that some verbs or some sentences, if you use the verb with infinitive or gerund, there is no difference in meaning, like the list of verbs in front of you, like begin, like, hate, start, love, can't stand, continue, prefer, and can't bear. The verbs in a group A may be followed by either an infinitive or a gerund with a little or no difference in meaning. Yani most probably there is no difference in meaning. If there is a difference in meaning, it is very, very little difference in meaning. It began to rain. Look at the first sentence, at the first example. It began to rain. It began raining. Is there any difference in the meaning of these sentences? It began to rain or it began raining? There is no difference in the meaning between the two sentences. They give the same meaning and they give the same tense, let's say. There is no difference between began to rain or began raining. Look at for example, I started to work and I started working. Also, they have the same meaning. Either if I say I started to work or I started working, there is no difference in meaning. But in C, it was beginning to rain. If the main verb is in progressive, يعني إذا كانت tense للجملة either present continuous or past continuous, it is preferable to use the infinitive, not to use the progressive or the gerund after the verb, because it becomes very weak in structure or very weak in the structure becomes very weak. Imagine if I say it was beginning raining, يعني بتحسوها هيك ركيكة الجملة، تركيبها ضعيف weak. It was beginning to rain is more appropriate and more let's say more coherent, or let's say more acceptable when you hear it. And then the first group, which consists of this list of verbs, they are either followed by infinitives or by gerunds. They give the same meaning, but in the case of progressive tenses, it is preferable to use the infinitive form, not the gerund form. The second group B, in this case, if the verb is followed by gerund or infinitive, they are acceptable. But in these cases, or in the two cases, if it is gerund and infinitive, they give different meanings. They give different meanings, not the same meaning. For example, remember, وبلشنا احنا نتكلم عنها امبارح. Remember, regret, stop, forget, and try. This group, or the verbs in this group, may be followed either by infinitive or gerund, but the meaning here is totally different. They don't give the same meaning as the group in here in the above, in the top of this table. Look at these examples. We started talking about remember last time, and we will continue. Judy always remembers to lock the door. Here, remember plus infinitives. This means that the person or the subject is remembering to perform a responsibility or a duty. He or she remembers to do the responsibility, then he or she does the responsibility. Remembering becomes before acting the action or doing the activity. But in E, Sam, in F, I remember seeing the Alps for the first time. The sight was impressive. Here, the activity or the action happened in the past, and now I am in the process of remembering what happened in that activity. And I told you, I gave you another example, which is I remembered to buy the book from the library. and I remember buying the book from the library. I remember to buy the book. I first went to the library, then I remembered buying the book. I remembered to buy the book, and then I bought the book. I remembered before I buy the book. But in the second sentence, I remembered buying the book. This means that I bought a book in the past, and I am now remembering the activity of buying the book in the past. Here, look at the comments here. Remember plus infinitive, remember to perform responsibility, duty, or task, as in D. Here, Judy always remembers to lock the door. But in F, remember and gerund, recall something that happened in the past. I'm recalling what happened in the past. Forget also gives the same meaning or the same effect as remember. Forget and remember, they are opposites, but when it is used with to or used with gerund, they apply to the same rules, let's say. Sam often forgets to lock the door. Forget and infinitive, forget to perform the responsibility or duty or task. And in G, I'll never forget seeing the Alps. In the past, I saw the Alps and I was impressed by that sight. So I will never forget seeing the Alps for the first time. I remember or I forget here, forget plus gerund, something that happened in the past. Something that happened in the past. Do you have any question concerning forget and remember? طيب. Number H. أو خلينا نحكي عن الفيرب regret لحاله. يعني هدول الخمس أفعال remember forget يعني بيجوا بكاتيجوري واحدة. regret لحالها, stop لحالها, وtry برضه بتيجي لحالها. خلينا نشوف regret. I regret to tell you that you failed the test. And I regret lending him some money. He never paid me back. What is the difference in meaning between these two sentences? I regret to tell you that you failed the test. I went, this is the situation, or let's imagine together this situation. I went to the professor and the professor corrected our test. And I saw my friend's result. I went to that friend. I am going to tell him about his result. But I'm giving him an introduction before starting to tell him. And I say, I regret to tell you that. First, I regret, I'm not happy, I'm sad to tell you that you failed the exam. Here, regret and infinitive equals regret to say or to tell someone or to inform someone of some bad news. I have bad news. I regret to tell you that you failed the exam. يعني لما بدنا نوصل خبر سيء لحدا يؤسفني أن أقول لك أنك رسبت بالامتحان بنفس المعنى. I regret to tell you. أنا أشعر, I feel guilty, I feel I feel regret to tell you that bad news. And I regret lending him some money. He never paid me back. I regret lending him some money. He never paid me back. I did something in the past, which is lending somebody money. And now what I'm doing, I am regretting what I did in the past. I regret lending him some money. واحد إجا علي اتداين مني مبلغ وما عاد شفت وجهه. So I am in this time, at the present time, I regret something that happened in the past. أنا بأسف, بندم, خلينا نسميها, على شيء عملته في الماضي ونتيجته ظهرت في الوقت الحاضر. بنعيد موضوع regret. بنعيد على موضوع regret. I regret to tell you that you failed the test. Just a minute. I regret to tell you that you failed the test. In this case, I am trying to tell a bad news for somebody, and I feel sorry to tell him or her that bad news. So as an introduction, I start with saying, I regret to tell you that you failed the test. I feel sorry to tell you that bad news. And I regret lending him some money he never paid back. And here in this sentence, I am regretting something I did in the past. That I gave somebody money and this person didn't pay the money back. Then this is the difference between I regret and infinitive and regret with the gerund. If anything is not clear, please ask before we go on. إذا في شيء غير واضح اسألوا قبل ما ننتقل للي بعده. طيب. ننتقل ل try. هنا try, it has also two different meanings when it is used with the gerund or when it is used with the infinitives. Look at the first example. I am trying to learn English. I am trying to learn English. In this sentence, this means that I am making an effort to do something, which is learning English. I am in the progress or in the process of learning English. I am doing my best. I am making an effort to do this activity or learning English, which is learning English. In K, the room was hot. I tried opening the window. The room was hot. I tried opening the window, but that didn't help. So I tried turning on the fan, but I was still hot. Finally, I turned on the air conditioner. In this case, try plus the gerund, it gives an experiment with no difference. يعني I tried something but it didn't work. يعني another example, open the door. أو خلينا نحكي it is hot in this room and I tried opening the window but it is stuck. I am trying, making an effort to make a difference in to make a difference but it didn't work. Oh, لا بهاي الحالة it works. I want to see what the result is. I want to see what the result is. I tried opening the window, but it didn't help. So in try plus the gerund, in this case, we are doing an effort to see the difference. طيب بحكي لكم it is hot in this room. Let's try opening the window. يعني خلينا نفتح الشباك ونشوف إيش رح يتغير على الوضع في هاي الغرفة. هل رح يصير الوضع أحلى؟ يعني رح يصير الجو أبرد أو لا. إذا in this case, try plus the gerund, it means we are making an effort or we are trying a new approach to see what is the difference, what the difference can it make. Let me give you another example. It is hot in this room and I tried to open the window, but it didn't work. In this case, when I use a try with the infinitive, this means that I tried something, but it didn't work. إذا صار في عندنا ثلاث حالات، إحنا الحالة الأخيرة بدنا نضيفها أو بدنا نفرق فيها بين الأولى والثانية. I am trying in jail. I am trying to learn English. This means I am making an effort to do something. In the second sentence, the room was hot. I tried opening the window. Here, I am trying to do something in order to see what difference my effort will make. أنا بدي أجرب شغلة عشان أشوف ما أثرها. طيب في الحالة الثالثة اللي هي مش مذكورة أمامنا اللي هي try with to infinitive with infinitive اللي هي I tried to open the window but it didn't, it is stuck. I tried to open the window but it is stuck. In this case, I'm trying to do something but it doesn't work. I tried to open the window but my try is not working. محاولتي أصلاً مش عم تزبط لأنه المحاولة نفسها فشلت. طيب في الحالة الأخيرة أو في الفعل الأخير واللي هي stop. الفعل stop. Look at the examples. The students stopped talking when the professor entered the room. The room became quiet. When Anne saw her professor in the hallway, she stopped in order to talk to him. In the first sentence, the students stopped talking when the professor entered the room. In this case, stopping or talking was in progress before the professor entered the room. And as soon as the professor entered the room, they stopped talking. Talking took place before the entrance of the professor. So they stopped talking. They were doing something, which is talking. And when the professor entered the room, they stopped that activity while he talking. In M, when Anne saw her professor in the hallway, she stopped in order to talk to him. In this case, this person, Anne, she stopped physically بالمعنى يعني بالمعنى الحسي بالمعنى الحركي. She stopped. Why? Because she has something in mind. She wants to talk to her professor. خلينا ناخذ مثال آخر. طيب. I stopped drinking coffee last year. I stopped drinking coffee last year. This means that I used to drink coffee a lot in the past, and I stopped doing that activity in a particular time, which is last year. So the activity of drinking coffee was in progress or took place over a period of time, and in a certain point, this activity stopped. I stopped to drink a cup of coffee. This means I was working, for example, or I was walking, I was running, I was doing a certain activity. Then I stopped physically, بالمعنى الحسي, I stopped working, I stopped talking, I stopped walking, running, whatever, and I started, or I drank coffee. I stopped to drink. Why I stopped? There's a purpose in my mind. I stopped to drink coffee. Look at this comment here. Stop plus gerund, stop an activity. They stopped drinking coffee. The activity was taking place and then it stopped. Here, stop plus infinitive. Stop can also be followed immediately by an infinitive of purpose. Anne stopped walking in order to talk to her professor. Then there is a purpose for stopping in the subject or in the person's mind. بالنسبة لهي الأفعال, do you have any question? Do you have anything that is not clear concerning these 5 verbs? اللي هن stop, remember, forget, regret, and try. Do you have any question? Is everything clear? How we will decide to use the infinitive or the gerund? It is connected to the context. بدنا نفهم الكونتكست, السياق للجملة, وبعديها نقرر which one of the patterns we should use. Then we read the sentence, we understand the context, then we decide on which pattern should we use. Okay, let's go to the exercises in order to make everything clear. I'm waiting for your questions. If you don't have, let me start with the exercises. Since you don't have any question, let's go to exercise 30 عفوا. Looking at grammar. Complete each sentence with the correct form of the verb in parentheses. The correct form, which means either infinitive or gerund. I always remember to turn off the lights before I leave my house. Here, the context is that I remember to do an activity or the responsibility. I remember to turn off all the lights before I leave my house. Number 2. I remember play with dolls when I was a child. I remember what? Yes, and I remember playing with dolls when I was a child. So in this case, I remember something that I did in the past. 3. What do you remember? What do you remember do when you were a child? Yes, what do you remember doing when you were a child? Because this also indicates something that I remember in the doing in the past. 4. ممتازين جميعا. Number 4. What do you remember do before you leave for class every day? Yes, excellent. To do. What do you remember to do before you leave for class every day? Excellent. Number 5. What did you forget? Forget do forget to remember إلهم يعني تقريبا نفس الاستخدام. خلينا نحكي بس واحدة تذكر واحدة نسيان، المعنى مختلف لكن تنطبق عليهم نفس القاعدة. What do you forget do before you left for class this morning? What did you forget to do? أحسنتم ممتازين. What do you remember? What did you forget to do before? Because here I forget something to do, responsibility. Number 6, I won't ever forget watch our team score the winning goal in the last second of the championship game. متأكد يا أسامة؟ Yes, watching. I remembered watching. I won't forget watching our team score. يعني شيء صار بالماضي, something happened in the past اللي هو مشاهدة تسجيل الهدف الفائز. And I am now recalling something happened in the past. Number 7, don't forget. طبعا دائما لما يكون في عندنا imperatives عادة نستخدم الانفينيتيف. لا مش بالضرورة according to the context لأنه في عندنا 7 و8 مختلف ثنتين imperatives بس كل واحدة إلها استخدام مختلف وهذا يعود على السياق as the context. Don't forget to do your homework tonight. Yes, أحسنتم. Don't forget to do. Please stop bite your fingernails. Biting, excellent. Next. I stopped. هلا هنا في عنا مثال آخر. Stop. هلا forget to remember خلصنا منها. Number 9. I stopped get gas yesterday and was shocked at the high price. I stopped to get gas yesterday. Excellent. هنا التوقف من أجل هدف معين. I stopped to do something or to make there is a purpose for stopping. Number 10, I stopped to drive so much because of the high price of gas. I stopped driving so much because of the high price of gas. Excellent. I used to drive a lot, then I stopped driving so much because of the high price of the gas. واضحة الأمور؟ hopefully. هذا التمرين اللي بعده وين إحنا؟ listening. طيب خلينا على التمرين نروح على التمرين رقم 14 رقم 3 هي التمرين اللي بعده تمرين 32. اوكي اه 18 complete the sentences with the correct form of the verb in parentheses. Maria loves swimming and to swim in the ocean. هون بدنا نفرق متى بيكون عندنا استخدام الجرند والinfinitive gives the same meaning and when using the gerund and infinitive gives different meanings. In this case, if it gives the same meaning بيكون نحكي لما نستخدم الجهتين. وإذا كانت different, we will use the suitable form of the verb in parentheses. Number 1, Maria loves swimming or to swim in the ocean. After a brief interruption, the professor continued lecture. Lecture هنا فعل وليست اسم. Continued. Yes, lecturing and to lecture both نفس الشيء لأن continue من الأفعال اللي بتقبل الحالتين. Yes, both are correct. So we can say after brief interruption, the professor continued to lecture or continued lecturing. Number 3. In number 3, we have 3 verbs. In each one, we want to decide the correct form. I hate, see, any living being suffer. Any living being suffer. Yes, what do you think? Seeing وليش to watch لساتنا ما وصلناش واحدة يا زلمة. إذا الأولى I hate to see أو I hate seeing any living being suffer هاي صحيحة. إذا الأولى بتزبط الثنتين. I can't bear watch to watch and watching برضه هون صحيحة لأنه هاي الأفعال see وبير هدول الثنتين بيقبلوا infinitive وجرند without changing the meaning. Then I hate seeing any living being suffer. I can't bear watching or to watch news reports for children who are starving. I can't stand read about animals that have been cruelly abused by people. To read برضو بتزبط. I can't stand to read or I can't stand إيش can't stand reading about animals. إذن في هاي الحالات كلياتها بتزبط معنا. Number 4. I'm afraid of flying when a plane begins move down the runway. Okay, both. Yes. شو هن البوث؟ يعني I'm afraid of flying when a plane begins moving down the runway or to move down the runway. runway اللي هي المهبط يعني مهبط الطائرات. My heart starts race. Oh. What do you think? My heart starts race. Racing. Well, yes, my heart starts racing. The plane is beginning move. ليش هاي محطوط عليها نجمة؟ move. خليني أشوف. move. To move. هلا أنا بشرح لكم هي إيش الفرق يعني فيها. And my heart is starting. Yes. Okay. في هاي الحالة the plane is beginning to move. ليش ما أخذنا الجرند؟ لأنه حكينا إنه when the tense of the sentence is in the progressive tense we use infinitive instead of the gerund. إذن the plane is beginning to move and my heart is starting يلا race آخر فعل. ترى قربت تخلص الجلسة الأولى. To race, yes. Starting to race. Excellent. When I travel, I prefer drive to take a plane. Driving to taking I prefer driving to taking a plane. أنا بفضل القيادة أو السواقة على ركوب الطائرة. Driving الأولى والثانية taking. Number 6, I prefer drive rather than take a plane. I prefer to drive rather than to take a plane. Number 5, when I travel, I prefer driving to taking مش to هاي ما بيجي وراها هون التو هاي مش تبعت الانفينيتيف يعني بفضل كذا على كذا. الأولى إذا when I travel I prefer to drive عفوا to taking a plane. السادسة I prefer to drive rather than taking a plane. في حالة prefer لحظة هيها prefer. هاي الحالة اللي prefer احنا ما حكينا فيها، أنا نسينا نحكي عنها، خلينا نرجع لها عشان ما تصير معنا خربطات، بس خلينا على السريع نرجع لها. هيها في آخر الجدول هنا. في حالة اللي prefer notice the pattern with prefer. Prefer plus gerund I prefer staying home to going to the concert. Prefer with infinitive I would prefer to stay home rather than to go to the concert. في حالة اللي prefer with gerund I prefer staying home too. إذا لما يكون في عنا بفضل شيء على شيء بس بدون استخدام rather than نستخدم الجرند. I prefer staying to going. في حالة استخدام rather than prefer with infinitive I would prefer to stay rather than to go. هاي إحنا نسينا إن نحكي فيها. إذا when we use prefer with gerund I prefer something to something else. Prefer doing X to doing Y. Prefer plus infinitive I would prefer to do X rather than. إن rather than هنا بتغير لنا المعنى. Rather than to go to the concert. Forget followed by a gerund usually occurs in the negative sentence. I will never forget. I can't forget. إذا لما يكون في عنا هاي كمان نسيناها المعلومة. لما يكون في عنا النفي negative form of forget we usually use gerunds rather than infinitives. الآن رح يفصل من عنا هون النت على طول بنرجع بنشبك مباشرة على نفس الاي دي وعلى نفس الباسورد. إذن هدول الملاحظتين مهمات. نرجع للجملة اللي توقفنا عندها اللي هي تاعت prefer هون. I prefer driving. يلا ويلكم باك. خلينا نرجع لموضوعنا بما انه الكل اجتمع او تقريبا الكل اجتمع. كنا متوقفين عند prefer. I prefer driving. When I travel I prefer driving to taking plane. I prefer to drive rather than to take a plane. أتمنى أنها تكون الآن وضحت هاي المعلومة. Number 7. I regret inform you that your loan application has not been approved. I regret inform. خلينا نشوف هون الإجابات. I regret to inform. Excellent. I regret to inform. Number 8. I regret listen not to my father's advice. He was right. الأولى مضبوطة to inform. Now in 8, when we talk about the negative of regret, I regret listen to my father's advice. He was right. I regret مالنا. I regret not listening. I regret not listening. Yes, excellent. I regret not listening to my father's advice. Number 9, when a student asks a question, the teacher always tries explain the problem as clearly as possible. Try. Now try هي من الحالات اللي بيكون فيها using gerund and infinitive give different meanings. Start explaining. Yes. Start explaining the problem as clearly as possible. I tried everything, but the baby still wouldn't stop. لحظة. When a student asks a question, the teacher tries here explaining. مش yes, explaining ليش مضبوطة. He tries explaining because the teacher is making an effort. Yes, excellent. I tried everything, but the baby still wouldn't stop cry. I tried everything, but the baby still wouldn't stop crying. Wouldn't stop crying because here I'm doing an effort. And there is no difference. There is no difference. Type. I tried hold him, but that didn't help. I tried to hold him or holding him, but that didn't help. لما حكينا في حالة when we try something and it doesn't work, we use what? What do we use? To hold. Excellent. لا, holding ما بتزبط. I tried something and it didn't work. هون مستخدمينها الانفينيتيف. I tried to hold him, but that didn't help. I tried feed him, but he refused the food and continued crying. برضه هون نفس الإشي. صح يا يزن, you are correct. I tried to hold him. I tried to hold him, but that didn't help. هو حاول عملية الحمل زبطت. Yes, excellent يا يزن. Thank you very much. عملية حمل البيبي هي زبط, قدر إنه يحمله, لكن ما تغير شيء على حالته. البيبي ضل يعيط. I tried holding him, but that didn't help. I tried feed him, but he refused. أحسنت يا يزن. I tried to help to feed him. في الحالة الفيدing هون he did not يعني accept eating at all. So my trying to feed him is not working. I tried to feed him, but he refused the food and continued cry. Then I tried holding him, but that didn't help. I hold him. هنا I used the gerund because I am trying to do something to see the difference. الفرق ممكن يزبط ممكن ما يزبط، لكن عملية الحمل زبطت، يعني أنا قدرت أحمله. I tried holding him, but that didn't help. Then I tried to feed him. My try here to feed him failed. He did not eat and he refused the food and continued. وآخر واحدة cry شو بتصير؟ Continued. What? Thank you, Yazan. Crying. He continued crying. Yes, he continued crying. I tried rub him. I tried rub him. شايف rub بدي دشي يعني تتشايف. I tried yes. في هاي الحالات المحاولة زبطت لكن ما عملت فرق. إذا كلها بتمشي على قاعدة الجرند. I tried prepping him. I tried changing his diaper. Nothing worked. The baby wouldn't stop to cry. Wouldn't stop crying عفوا. واضحة الفكرة؟ شو يا سارة changed؟ What؟ No ما عندنا يعني past أبدا. إحنا بنحكي عن infinitives أو بنحكي عن what do we do if we don't know if he was successful or not? Look at these pictures, يا يزن. He is telling us that he is doing an effort to do something. He is trying to do an effort. يعني this baby was crying, and this person, his dad, maybe he doesn't know what is the reason for his crying. He tried doing something to change the situation. In each case, what he did succeeded, but there is no difference. يعني حاول إنه يحمله، قدر يحمله، بس ما تغير الوضع. He made an effort, but his effort did not succeed. يعني there is no difference. In the case of feeding, في حالة الأكل المحاولة نفسها فشلت because the baby refused to eat. If you don't know if he was successful or not. I told you, the context tells us everything about what we need to use. The context. He is not successful. At the end, nothing worked. The baby wouldn't stop crying. طيب مثال لو فرضنا نرجع لمثال الشباك. It is very hot in this room. Let's try opening the window. We open the window, it's still hot. Let's try opening the door. In each time when we open the window opened. يعني محاولتنا زبطت فتح الشباك. ما علق الشباك مش معلق. لو معلق الشباك بنحكي إنه we tried to open the window but it is stuck. هون المحاولة نفسها محاولة فتح الشباك فشلت. لكن we tried opening the window, we made the effort to see the difference. The difference is يعني if there is a difference or not مش هون الفكرة. الفكرة إنه we made an effort to do something. This is the idea. عملية الفتح عملية المحاولة زبطت لكن لم يحدث فرق. أتمنى أنها تكون وضحت هون. في عندنا هنا ملاحظة if possible native speakers usually prefer to use an infinitive following a progressive verb. حكيناها هاي الأمور. the baby is starting to walk, for example. حكي لما يكون فينا the tense of the sentence is in the progressive tense, we avoid using gerunds. We try using infinitives. خلاص talking هذا الأمور واضحة يا زن، إن شاء الله أكون قدرت أجاوبك على سؤالك. طيب نرجع على صفحة 320. في عنا تمرين 320. إيش هاي الصفحة؟ هون. Exercise 35, looking at grammar. Complete each sentence with an appropriate form of the verb in the parentheses. Mary reminded me, be not late for the meeting. Mary reminded me not to be late for the meeting. I have volunteered help at the local school during my time off and paint the I volunteered help at the local school during my time off and paint the lunch room. Yes, what do you think? أنتوا عم تفكروا بالحل ولا لا؟ قديش ضايل معنا وقت؟ يلا بس نحل كم جملة من هون وننتقل على آخر موضوع بهذا الشابتر. بعدين إن شاء الله بكرة الأحد بإذن الله عفواً بنبدأ بموضوع جديد. نشوف شو علينا مواضيع ونكمل. I have volunteered help at the local school during my time off. I have volunteered to help at the local school. I volunteered helping at the local school. Both can be used. I volunteered helping or I volunteered to help at the local school. And paint the lunchroom. And to paint. I volunteered to help at the local school during my time off and to paint the lunch room. Number 3, we discussed quit our job and open our own business. We discussed yes, quitting. We discussed quitting our job and open our business. And opening our own business. We discussed quitting our job and opening our own business. هلا هنا بدنا نرجع للقائمة الأولانية اللي هي بصفحة 313 اللي هي الأفعال اللي بتقبل either infinitives or gerunds. مثل هون صفحة 313 في عندك promise, appear, would like, print, pretend, quit, require, etc. And we want to decide which one works. طبعا أنا ما ضلش معي وقت كثير، بدي أعطيكم آخر هذا التمرين بدي إياكم تحلوا لي كواجب اللي هو تمرين 35. ما رح يعني خليه للمرة القادمة لأنه أنا بدي أعطيكم آخر موضوع عشان هذا الأسبوع أكون طلعت من الشابتر كلها ما نلتحق. بدي التمرين 35 بهاي الصفحة تحلوا واجب. بدي أنا وياكم نحلوا المرة القادمة بشكل سريع. طلعوا ما أطوله طويل جدا. 18 فقرة 18 فقرة، فبدي إياكم تحلوا. طيب روحوا لي على صفحة 322 إذا إنكم متابعين معي على الكتاب. Look here at this exercise. لازم تحلوا يا مرح، ضروري تحلوا. هذا لأنه في مراجعة لأكثر. صفحة إيش حكيت لكم أنا؟ صفحة 220 221 320 321 320 321. Look here at the final rule, the last rule for this chapter, for this unit. It plus infinitive, gerund and infinitives as subjects. Now, when we use it as the subject, and which is when followed by infinitives, sometimes we use gerunds and infinitives as the subject of the sentence. Number A, it is difficult to learn a second language. It is difficult to learn a second language. Here the subject of the sentence is it. طلعوا حلوا الجملة. It is the subject. Is هنا what? Here it is the verb. Difficult to learn, this is the complement of the sentence. It is difficult. شو هو الصعب? What is difficult to learn a second language? Here the this phrase which begins with to, or the infinitive phrase, this gives the meaning of it. نفس معنى it. It is difficult. What is difficult? To learn a second language. Often infinitive phrase is used with it as the subject of a sentence. The word it refers to and has the same meaning as the infinitive phrase at the end of the sentence. In A, it means to learn a second language. It is difficult to learn a second language. Here it, the subject, and we use the infinitive as here after the verb to give the same meaning of it. B, learning a second language is difficult. In this case, the phrase which begins with the gerund works as the subject of the sentence. Learning a second language is difficult. Learning a second language here is a phrase. This is a phrase which works as the subject of the sentence. Learning a second language is difficult. The gerund phrase is frequently used as the subject of the sentence, like in this sentence. To learn a second language is difficult. Here also, okay يا أسامة, take your time. أصلاً إحنا خلصنا يعني تقريباً, بس بدنا ناخذ آخر معلومة. بس ذكرني عشان ما أحطك غياب, أو ذكروني الموجودين إنه أسامة ما ينحط غياب. To learn a second language is difficult. Here, the infinitive phrase which begins with